The city of Acre stands resplendent with its white towers overlooking the Mediterranean. Its bustling stone streets teem with fishermen, merchants, and knights. Amidst this activity, two peculiar men stride purposefully toward the king-elect of the newly formed Crusader kingdom. Conrad of Montferrat notices them and slows his pace, greeting the pair with the familiarity of recognizing them as fellow Christians, monks or servants aiding his cause to reclaim Jerusalem from the Islamic Ayyubid dynasty. But in an instant, the scene turns grim. The two men draw daggers and plunge them repeatedly into Conrad's chest. He collapses from his bloodied mount, and nearby guards immediately kill one of the attackers. The other is pursued through the streets, captured, and dragged until his life fades. Before his death, he reveals a chilling truth. He is no Christian monk, nor simply an agent of the Ayyubids. He confesses that the assassination was ordered by a shadowy and feared organization, the nightmare of rulers across the land, the Order of Assassins. Hidden in remote isolation, their strongholds crown the cold peaks of the Persian and Syrian mountains, with their heart at the legendary Alamut Castle, where torchlit halls conceal their enigmatic elders and deadly secrets. Within the shadowy halls of their mountain fortresses, the members of the Order of Assassins hone their deadly craft. Scouts are trained in the arts of stealth and disguise, while their elders recite Quranic verses in torchlit chambers. According to legend, they were once young boys taken from local towns, drugged, stripped of fear, and shaped into fearless killers. Despite the whispers of insidious tales, these enigmatic figures are not native to the mountains they now call home. A century ago, their ancestors were driven from the sands of Egypt. They followed a man named Nizar, whom they believed Allah had chosen to lead Islam and succeed his father as the caliph of the Fatimid dynasty, a dynasty whose banners once stretched along the vast northern coast of Africa. However, Nizar's fate was grim. He was betrayed by rival claimants and met his end buried alive. His loyal followers, members of the Ismaili sect of Shia Islam, became known as the Nizari Ismaili. Stripped of their homeland and fortune, they fled northward, establishing a network of remote castles in the mountains. Under the spiritual guidance of an imam, they built a hidden and resilient society, forging a legacy both feared and shrouded in mystery. From their secluded mountain strongholds, the Nizari Ismailis spread their faith to the valleys and cities below. Their presence incites alarm among their neighbors. Sunni and Shia states alike view them as heretical outcasts dwelling in fractured conspiracy. The Abbasid Caliph of Baghdad, deeming them a threat, raises an army to crush them, only to fall victim to their blade. His son inherits the throne and, 3 years later, attempts to avenge his father by launching another campaign against the Nizaris. He too meets his end at the hands of their assassins, reinforcing the chilling reputation of the order. Fear becomes the Nizaris' greatest weapon, for they have few allies among the Crusaders or the Sunni and Shia empires. By infiltrating courts, recruiting agents within their enemies' ranks, and striking down prominent foes in public, they secure their survival. Even the powerful Sultan of the Seljuk Turks cannot escape their influence. One morning, he wakes to find a dagger planted beside his bed. Along with it, a chilling message is delivered from the Imam of the order. Had I not wished the Sultan well, that dagger now embedded in the hard ground would have been plunged into your soft chest. Shaken, the Sultan halts his campaign against the Nizaris, realizing that armies alone cannot defend against an enemy that targets the very minds of its adversaries. The Nizaris need not vanquish the armies of their enemies, for they understand that instilling terror in commanders can dismantle an attack before it begins. Yet, by the 13th century, a new adversary rises to challenge them, the burgeoning Khwarezmian Empire. Amid this turmoil, an even greater force emerges from the distant east. Warriors on horseback thunder across the steppes, pitching their tents under vast skies, subsisting on mare's milk and blood, and carrying with them the fierce wisdom and unparalleled horsemanship of the steppe tribes. These men will soon alter the fate of the Nizaris and the world itself. The Mongol Empire, with its promise of relative autonomy and religious freedom under tribute to the Great Khan, extends its grasp across vast lands. Yet defiance remains, and the Khwarezmian Empire pays dearly for its resistance, as the Mongol riders decimate royal bloodlines and slaughter countless thousands. Amid the chaos, the Nizari Ismailis emerge from their alpine fortresses, opportunistically aligning themselves with the Mongols. However, whispers of their reputation as kingslayers and the spillage of royal blood reach the Khan. Their refusal to fully submit becomes a challenge to his divine mandate of conquest. Ala ad-Din Muhammad III, the resolute imam of the assassins, senses the brewing tension. Seeking allies, he turns to the Abbasid Caliph of Baghdad, and together they dispatch a delegation westward in 1238. These Muslim envoys warn Christian kings of the looming Mongol threat, proposing a rare Muslim-Christian alliance. But their warnings are met with scorn. In the English court, the Bishop of Winchester declares, "Let us leave these dogs to devour one another, that they may all be consumed and perish." The envoys are dismissed, and in the following years, Mongol forces lay waste to the Rus principalities and storm into Eastern and Central Europe. Ala ad-Din's efforts at diplomacy fail to deter the Mongols, so he strikes first. Disguised assassins infiltrate a Mongol camp and kill General Chagatai Korchi in his sleep. But this act only hastens the wrath of the Mongol Empire. The great Khan Manka commands his grandson Hulagu to obliterate the Nizaris, advising him to treat kindly those who submit, but grind underfoot all who resist, along with their families and kin. Hulagu assembles Avastarmi. While his general Kibuka begins by capturing several Nizari fortresses. However, even during siege, the assassins fight back, sneaking out to kill 100 Mongols in Gurdko. As Kitbuka's forces advance, towns like Tasintan fall, and thousands of Nizari Ismailis are massacred. Survivors are left as brutalized remnants of their once proud order. Rumors spread of Ala ad-Din's madness, and even his son Kwarsha views continued resistance as futile. Yet the assassins, true to their nature, do not rely on conventional warfare. Their influence stretches even into the Mongolian steppe, where Manka Khan himself becomes paranoid, fearing assassins hidden in his midst. Reports claim that 400 Nizaris have infiltrated under disguise to kill him. In 1255, the tension within the order culminates in betrayal. Ala ad-Din, ever defiant, is found stabbed to death in his own bed. Rumors suggest his own son, Kwarsha, may have sanctioned the act, seeking to salvage what remains of their crumbling dominion. As the Mongols close in, the once feared order of assassins faces its darkest hour, brought low by both external conquest and internal strife. At just 26 years old, Kwarsha ascends as the new imam of the Nizari Ismailis following his father's death. Wary of Hulagu, Khan's advancing army, he signals his desire to submit but avoids appearing in person, suspecting a trap. He also refuses to destroy Alamut, the Nizari's most formidable stronghold. As Hulagu's forces press into Persia, their sheer magnitude strikes terror into the region. It is said that the mountains began to quake and the hearts of kings to tremble. North of Alamut, a Mongol contingent confronts an army of assassins stationed on a high hill. The Nizaris, armed with bows, swords, and daggers, repel the furious Mongol charge, sending riders tumbling in retreat. Yet the Mongols retaliate by devastating the surrounding farmland, a calculated blow to the region's survival. Despite this clash, Alamut remains intact. The Mongols' true target lies further west, Meymandiz, an ancient fortress carved into the face of a red cliff. Within its halls, Kwarsha has taken refuge, but his sanctuary is soon overshadowed by the approach of Hulagu's forces. 10,000 Mongols, local conscripts, and colossal siege engines. Hulagu, fulfilling the Great Khan's command, arrives to crush the order of assassins. The siege of Meymandiz begins with unrelenting ferocity. Day after day, Mongol bombardments batter the ancient stronghold. Towering walls crumble, cascading down the cliffside while the defenders struggle to repel the invaders. Though the assassins briefly hold off a direct assault, their position grows increasingly desperate. No reinforcements arrive, and the fortress faces inevitable ruin. Finally, Kvarsha descends from the mountain and negotiates surrender. The Mongol forces swarm into Meymandiz, fulfilling Hulagu's ruthless mandate to extinguish the Nizari Ismailis. The fortress, a symbol of their defiance, falls, and with it, the once feared order of assassins edges closer to its end. The fall of Meymandiz does not mark the end of the resistance. A final, desperate band of assassins ambushes the Mongols in a last bid to defend the fortress. Their devotion and defiance are unmatched, but the Mongol forces are overwhelming. One by one, the rebels are slain, and Meymandiz is lost. Hulagu forces Khor Shah to order the surrender of all remaining Nizari strongholds, threatening annihilation for any who resist. Many comply, opening their gates and disbanding their forces. A few, however, refuse. Khor Shah himself journeys to Alamut, the sacred heart of the Nizari Ismailis, pleading for its defenders to surrender. His warnings fall on deaf ears. Within a day, Hulagu's army ascends the mountain trails, launching an assault on the fortress. Alamut's defenders rain arrows and stones from their high towers, holding the Mongols at bay. Though their position is strong, they cannot achieve victory. After 3 days of resistance, the garrison negotiates a writ of amnesty and evacuates the fortress. Hulagu ascends Alamut, awed by the ancient stronghold that had housed the Order of Assassins for 2 centuries. He orders its destruction. The Mongols demolish the fortress, burn its treasured libraries, and plunder its hidden chambers. Meanwhile, the castles of Lamasser and Gurdko continue to resist, but Khor Shah's authority has crumbled. Stripped of land and armies, he accepts the hospitality of the Mongols and journeys east, seeking an audience with the Great Khan, Menka. Along the way, tensions arise between Khor Shah and his Mongol escorts. In Bokhara, a dispute turns violent. Under Mongol law, such insubordination demands the harshest retribution. Orders are given to annihilate Khor Shah's lineage. His sons, daughters, siblings, and extended family are executed in acts of brutal vengeance. Among those killed is his kin handed over to the Mongol commander Buligin, who seeks revenge for his father, Chagatai Korchi. Across the land, tens of thousands of Nizari Ismaili followers are massacred. When Khor Shah reaches Karakoram, his reception is cold. The Great Khan rebukes him for failing to destroy the defiant fortresses of Lamasser and Gurdko. Khor Shah, now a political liability, is turned away. His usefulness exhausted, he becomes a target of disdain among both his Mongol overlords and Sunni rivals. On his journey back to Persia, Mongol officials lead him off the road. There, Khor Shah and his followers are savagely beaten and executed, their legacy extinguished. It is said, of him and his stock, no trace was left. He and his kindred became but a tale on men's lips and a tradition in the world. Lamasser falls. Gurdko withstands a prolonged siege, and the remaining Nizari Ismaili believers scatter across the land. The Order of Assassins is no more, crushed under the weight of Mongol wrath. Yet their destruction is only the beginning of Hulagu's campaign. His most infamous atrocity, the sacking of Baghdad, still lies ahead, a massacre that will mark one of the darkest chapters of the Mongol Empire's conquests. Centuries later, in an age where stealth and privacy are fleeting luxuries, the legacy of the assassins lingers as a cautionary tale of defiance, survival, and ultimate annihilation.